In 2021, I was working freelance videography gigs and staying with my cousin Nate on his family's farm in Iowa. The plan was to crash there for a few weeks between jobs, cheap place, quiet, and a good reset from the chaos of city life. They owned acres of cornfields, tall, thick stalks in every direction. At night, the entire property was pitch black, except for a few motion lights on the barn. The wind made the corn whisper constantly. It was peaceful, until it wasn't. I arrived mid-July. Everything seemed normal. Until night 3. I was walking back to the house after shooting some B-roll of the fields during golden hour. My drone had snagged on something in the corn, so I had to go retrieve it manually. I hated walking into the rows, easy to get disoriented. Every direction looks the same. As I pushed through the stalks, I felt something off. Not fear, just watched. I stopped and listened, nothing. Then I heard a crunch, maybe 10 feet to my left. I froze. Coyote? I whispered, but then came a second sound. Breathing. Close. Low. Wet. I turned, aimed my flashlight, but nothing was there. I grabbed my drone and got out of the corn as fast as I could. Told Nate about it later. He just shrugged and said, "Lots of raccoons this year, but raccoons don't breathe like that." That was the first time. The second came a few nights later. Nate and his family were gone for the weekend, so I had the house to myself. I stayed up late editing footage. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard the barn's motion light click on. I peeked out the window and saw movement. A figure. Not an animal. Tall, slender, moving oddly. I thought it might be a trespasser, so I grabbed a flashlight and crept outside. But by the time I got to the barn, nothing. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. A trail of broken corn stalks leading into the field. Like someone had dragged something heavy in. I should have gone back inside. Called Nate, called anyone. But I didn't. I followed the trail. 30 feet into the corn, I found the source of the damage. A scarecrow, but not like the ones Nate set up. This thing was wrong. It was made of animal bones, rags, and human hair. No joke. I touched it. I know human hair when I see it. Pinned to its chest was a piece of paper, soaked from the dew. One word, handwritten. Leave. I sprinted back to the house and locked every door. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I waited for Nate. When he got home, I dragged him out to the corn. But the trail was gone. No broken stalks. No scarecrow. Just untouched green rows like nothing ever happened. He didn't believe me. But something knew I was there. Something didn't want me there. And it wasn't done yet. That night, I tried to forget it. Poured myself a drink. Put on a podcast. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the front porch light turned on. I turned off the music and waited. I didn't even move. Thud. A dull impact against the front door. Then again. Thud. I crept to the peephole and looked. Nothing. Then, knock. 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 Deliberate. Sharp. I didn't answer. I turned on my phone camera and recorded through the peephole. Still nothing. But when I reviewed the footage, for one frame, there was a shape. A face. Gray skin. Black eyes. No mouth. Gone in a blink. I packed up the next morning. Told Nate I had an emergency gig in Chicago. He didn't ask questions. 2 months later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a corn husk doll tied in twine. Its eyes were black glass beads, and its mouth was sewn shut. No note. I burned it in my fireplace. I haven't returned to Iowa since. But sometimes I still hear it. On nights when I can't sleep. The breathing. Just outside the window. I moved into this apartment in Brooklyn last summer. Small, second-floor unit in an older brownstone, nothing fancy, but affordable and close enough to the train line that I could sleep through it. I was mostly working nights, so I liked the quiet during the day. The place had one odd feature: a window directly behind the living room wall. Not next to it, behind it. Like whoever designed the building just bricked around it from the outside and left it there for no reason. You could only see the outline from the outside if you looked carefully: slightly discolored bricks and a weird frame inside. I didn't think much of it until the noises started. It began subtly, muffled tapping, sometimes during movies or while I was eating dinner. It sounded like someone rapping their knuckles on drywall, but from inside the wall. At first, I chalked it up to old pipes, maybe mice. New York's full of weird sounds, but the tapping got rhythmic, like it was trying to match the beat of whatever I was watching on TV. Then one night, around 3 a.m., I heard it again, this time louder, like someone knocking, not on the front door, on the wall behind my TV. I turned everything off, stood in the middle of the room and just listened. The knocking stopped, and then I heard it. Breathing, not mine, shallow, raspy, coming from inside the wall. That's when I did something really dumb. I knocked back, just once. Silence! Then, 2 knocks in reply. My heart sank. I backed away from the wall, slowly. I didn't sleep that night. I told my super the next day. He laughed, said the building used to be a tenement in the 30s, and that maybe there was a crawl space back there. Old buildings are weird, man. We checked it out together, removed the baseboard, shined a flashlight through a small vent near the floor. What we saw? A void, an old air shaft or something. Narrow, dusty, about 5 feet deep. It used to be a maintenance gap before renovations. The strange part? There was a tiny pile of food wrappers in the corner, empty chip bags, fast food cartons, all crumpled like someone had been sitting there. He said it must have been some squatter years ago and that I shouldn't worry. I tried not to, but a few nights later, I noticed something new. The tapping had stopped. Now there was scratching, long, slow scratches, like fingernails dragging across drywall. It made my skin crawl. And then came the voice, a low whisper, barely audible through the wall. I see you. I jumped off the couch. I screamed, grabbed my phone, but of course, no signal in that room. The walls were thick and old. I ran outside in my socks and called the police. They showed up 20 minutes later, checked the crawl space again. Nothing. No signs of entry. Just dust and crumbling insulation. I asked if maybe someone could fit back there. They looked at me like I was crazy. But I know what I heard. 2 days later, I got a call from my super. He finally pulled some old blueprints and discovered something chilling. Behind that wall wasn't just a crawl space. There used to be a closet-sized room, a servant's chamber, built into the floor plan back in 1911. It was bricked off sometime in the 50s, but not sealed from above, which meant someone could have gotten in from the roof. The next morning, I moved out, but before I left, I taped a note to the inside of the wall vent, just in case. It read, "You need help, but I can't help you. Leave people alone." I never got a reply, but I think about that whisper every night. I see you. I've always hated driving at night. Not because I'm afraid of the dark or anything. I just don't like the feeling that I'm the only one awake in the world. It's isolating, like something out there could happen to you and no one would ever know. This happened last summer. I was driving home from my brother's place around 2 a.m. He lives in a small town about an hour from where I'm staying. The highway between us is mostly empty, just farmland, tree lines, and the occasional rusted barn or gas station that hasn't been open since the 90s. My car's gas light had been on for a while, but I figured I'd make it. Big mistake. About 20 minutes into the drive, the engine sputtered. Then it died. I coasted to the shoulder of a 2-lane country road called Calhoun Road, with no streetlights, no nearby homes, just cornfields on both sides that went on forever. I sat there for a second in disbelief. Then I did the stupid thing. I got out. The air was thick, humid, and completely still. My phone had one bar, just enough to open Google Maps. It said there was a gas station 5 miles up the road. Walking distance. In the daytime, maybe. But now, as I was deciding whether to go or stay, I heard something in the cornfield. It wasn't a rustle or the wind. It was the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Like someone walking carefully but heavily through the dry stalks, pausing every few seconds, like they were trying to hear me. I backed up toward the car and quietly got in, locking the doors. I killed the dome light and sat completely still. The footsteps got closer. I couldn't see anything, just the dark outline of the field against the darker sky. Then they stopped. Total silence. That's when I noticed it. Out of the corner of my eye, there was someone standing on the opposite side of the road. Just standing, not moving, not saying a word. He was maybe 30 feet away, just beyond the edge of the corn. No flashlight, no car, just standing there like he'd been waiting for me. I flicked on my high beams for a second. He didn't flinch. I turned them back off immediately because I didn't want him to see me clearly. Not my face, not my plate, nothing. Then I saw him move, not walking. He sank into the cornfield. Like he didn't turn or step back, he just lowered himself straight down, vanishing into the crop like something subhuman. That's when I started the car again. I don't know how. It shouldn't have turned on. I was completely out of gas. But I didn't ask questions. I floored it and didn't let up until I was back on the interstate. When I pulled into a gas station 20 minutes later, my hands were still shaking. And my fuel tank? Still read empty. I have no idea who that man was. But I know this. He wasn't out there looking for gas. He was waiting.